Bernard.
Thank you, and thank you for answering the questions.
Sure.
So we will start with the first one. It's Celia, and she asks, you are saying to create something new in our life, we have to feel a positive emotion as if it had already happened. I want to create a beautiful, loving partnership for myself, but I don't know how that feels. I never experienced it in my life so far. How do you agree?
This is a great question. And many people ask, how do I feel a feeling of an experience that I haven't had yet? Well, think about this. The number one feeling that we feel when our life begins to change, or we begin to have feedback from our environment that what we're doing inside of us is producing an effect outside of us, the most common emotion that we feel is a love for life, a joy for existence, grateful, a real deep sense of gratitude. Now think about the emotional signature of gratitude. The emotional signature of gratitude means that something has already happened. When you receive something, or when you're given something, or you are in the process of receiving or have received it, you give thanks. So the moment you start feeling this emotion of appreciation and thankfulness, you will automatically say thank you, which means I've just received something, I'm acknowledging that I'm receiving it from you. So most people live their lives waiting for something outside of them to change how they feel inside of them. They're waiting for their new relationship, they're waiting for their new job, they're waiting for their new mystical moment to occur before they feel the emotion. So basically, they're spending the majority of their time waiting and not creating, living in lack, living in emptiness, living in fear, waiting for that external event to take away their emptiness or pain. That's the Newtonian model of reality, of cause and effect. Turns out, though, the moment you're feeling that lack, you tend to try harder and force and control and try to predict or manipulate the outer world, because you're doing everything you can because you're experiencing a separation or polarity from what you want. You're waiting for it to happen and not creating. So then, two things. When you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, a heart-centered emotion, not the emotions of survival that are anger and hostility and aggression and competition or hatred or envy or jealousy or insecurity or fear or anxiety or pain or suffering or guilt or shame, those are derived from the hormones of stress. An elevated emotion is a heart-centered emotion. And a heart-centered emotion lacks polarity. This is the center of oneness. This is the center of wholeness. This is the union of opposites. This is our connection, our bridge to the quantum field. This is where we connect. So think about it. When you begin to feel a heart-centered emotion, what you're doing is you're falling in love with your life. So your body is your unconscious mind. It does not know the difference between an experience that creates an emotion and an emotion that you're creating by thought alone. Your body is believing, it's living in that future reality in the present moment. Now think about this. The latest research on genes says the environment signals the gene. Well, the end product of an experience in the environment is called an emotion. So when you begin to embrace the emotion ahead of the actual experience, you're signaling the gene ahead of the environment. And now you're beginning to instruct and select new genes that make new proteins. And proteins are responsible for the structure and function of your body. So you're literally becoming your dream. You're literally becoming it. So when you feel that emotion, you tend to be less interested in looking around outside of you of how it's going to happen. If you're walking around conditioning your body every day to feel that emotion, that you're in love with yourself and you're in love with life and you're worthy to receive and you're open and you're inspired and you're optimistic and you're enthusiastic and you're feeling that emotion, you feel like your future has already happened. So you're less likely to feel lack or separation. Now think about this. Point number 2. Once energy makes it to this center and you feel gratitude, that center begins to produce a measurable magnetic field. That's a frequency, that's energy, and all frequency carries information. So now you can lay the thought of your new relationship on that frequency, and now you're broadcasting a whole new electromagnetic signature into the field. So then the longer you're conscious of that energy, the more you're calling your future to you. When this center is opened up, you're connected to the quantum field. So now you don't have to go anywhere to get it, to try to force it or control it or predict it. In fact, you're the magnet. You're collapsing time and space, and the event is being drawn to you, and it comes in synchronicities and serendipities and coincidences, opportunities. Now, the antithesis is also true. The moment you feel angry because you're in traffic, the moment you judge your coworker because all of a sudden they push an emotional button, the moment you feel sorry for yourself, victimized or self-pity, you're now emitting a different energy. In fact, you're back to the energy of your past, and you just disconnected from your future. So then people's dreams stay at arm's length from them. So people ask me all the time, well, how come my new relationship hasn't happened? And I tell them the same thing. Take out a piece of paper and write down everything you want in a new relationship, and then become that person. Because the question fundamentally is, would you go out with you? So if the answer is you're starting to love yourself so much that you no longer need another person, or you're no longer in lack, then you magnetize an equal. It just happens as a side effect. And it doesn't happen in ways that you can predict. It happens in different ways. So the emotions of gratitude, appreciation, thankfulness, a love for life, a joy for existence, worthy to receive, inspired and enthusiastic to be alive, looking forward and in excitement and anticipation to the unknown, staying in that energy without analyzing. That's the energy that allows the unknown to begin to occur. So what you're doing is you're teaching your body emotionally what that future feels like. And when you're in a state of gratitude, you're in the perfect state to receive the fruits of your efforts.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's continue with the next question. Monica asks, due to strong physical pain in my body, it's very hard for me to feel joy or any other positive emotion during my meditation. I can only try to fake it, but this feels very superficial to me. Does this still work? What else should I do?
This is also a great question, Monica, and a very common question. One of the things that I've learned in the last 5 years is that so much of our programming, so much of our unconscious mind is rooted in the body. And people store traumas, shocks, crisis, past experiences that are strong emotional charges. They store those in the body because every time we remember the experience, we're producing the same chemistry in the brain and body as if it's happening. So the body actually becomes conditioned into the past. And so the body in its resistance is clinging to the known and the familiar, even though we want our future to begin to change. So if you understand then that you can't think greater than how you feel when you're addicted to certain emotions, or when you've been thinking and feeling in the same cycles and feeling and thinking that you condition your body to become the mind of that emotion, then when feelings become the means of thinking, then for the most part, people are thinking in the past. So the body is struggling because it's clinging to the known because it doesn't trust the unknown. And so some people would rather hold on to their suffering or their pain than take a chance in possibility. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just becoming conscious of the process. And so when people begin to do this work, the first thing we teach them is about that elegant, generous present moment. And when you're truly in the present moment and you're totally focused, something amazing happens. You forget that you have a body. You forget about the people in your life. You forget about the things you own, your cell phone, your computer, your car, your home. You forget about where you're sitting, where you need to be, what place you have to go to, and you forget about time in and of itself. You take your attention off of time. And in that moment, you become pure consciousness. Now that is the elegant, generous present moment. And when you are truly in the present moment, that intelligence that lives within you and all around you is always present. It's always paying attention. And that's the moment there's an alignment between the subjective consciousness that's free-willed and the objective consciousness of the quantum field. You're looking right in the mirror. So then, in order for us to heal our bodies, we have to get beyond our bodies. In order for us to change some aspect of our identity or personality, we have to literally forget about ourselves. In order for us to change some problem or condition in our life, we have to forget about our present life and forget about the predictable future or the familiar past. And so you can only talk around this concept, but for a person who struggles with creating joy when they feel so much pain, and that they're working on trying to fake it until they make it, my advice is very simple. Work on getting beyond yourself. Now, there have been so many people in this work that have struggled and analyzed and tried to get beyond themselves and then tried to fake it and did all those things until they finally just followed the instructions and became nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time. Once you're that pure consciousness, the next question is, as consciousness, can you begin to put your attention on that field? Can you begin to pay attention to it? To begin to become aware of it, to become more aware of it, to experience it, to feel it, to stay connected to it moment after moment after moment. Now, just because you can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So as your consciousness begins to become aware of the consciousness of the quantum field, and you're experiencing less separation. Remember, separation is three-dimensional reality. My senses fool me into believing you're over there and I'm over here and there's time and space between us. Three-dimensional reality. But as you begin to become pure consciousness, you begin to experience less separation. As you begin to put your attention on that field and stay present with it, that infinite space, and tune into it, and begin to become more aware of greater degrees of oneness and wholeness. The signature of that unified field, that energy that is organizing everything material, is intelligent love. It is very organized energy that we can only describe as love, but not like chemical love you have for your dog or your kids or your partner, but it's electric. It's the most familiar, unfamiliar feeling you'll ever have. It enlivens us. It is the very life force. It is the glue that's holding everything together. So then the moment you put your attention on it and you begin to connect to it, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. You're investing your attention and energy into that field, and you'll begin to experience greater and greater degrees of oneness and wholeness and begin to feel more love. And now you don't have to try, because the energy from these centers moves right into the heart. We've measured this thousands of times. And the person then is being baptized by the divine. And all of the struggles, all of the effort, all of the analysis, all of the bad meditations, all of the good meditations, all of the quitting, all of the complaining is worth it. Because that moment you run into it, it is the most amazing feeling you'll ever have. So I'm not asking people then to create a fake feeling just to pretend that they're there. I'm asking them to become passionate. And when they're in that field and they're no longer encumbered by their body, now they can think greater than how they feel. They're not connected to matter and anything material. They're connected to this field. So I think about when I'm creating, if I am going to do something unlimited, I gotta feel unlimited. If I'm gonna create something magnificent, I have to become magnificent. So we have to work ourselves up into that state. And so there's an excitement, there's a change in energy. And when there's a change in energy, you change your energy, you change your life. And nobody changes until they change their energy. So the fundamental question is, what do you get passionate about? What moves you? This isn't a mechanical process. We're intuitively wired to create. So when you and I are saying, okay, let's create a new app, or let's create a program for our German community, and we're sitting down and we're starting to talk about it, and we're getting all these great ideas. Our energy's changing, we're getting excited, and that's the energy that's available to create with. So the stronger the emotions that we feel to certain problems and conditions in our lives, the more we put our attention on the cause, whether it's your ex, whether it's your boss, whether it's a coworker, whether it's your pain. And basically, if you place your attention on those elements, you're giving your power away to that person or thing. So as you begin to overcome those emotions in the process of connecting, then as you overcome those emotions, you'll take your attention off those people or problems, and you'll begin to break the energetic bond with everyone and everything in your past, present reality. And now you're calling energy back to you. That's available energy for you to design in destiny. So much people's creative energy is tied up in their pain. So then as they begin to take their attention off their pain, their body is starting to move closer to the present moment every day. And so don't be impatient. Every day is the mastery of self. If you overcome just a little bit of yourself every day, there will be a different feeling that warms your heart. That's where I want people to be. And those add up over time. And yes, there's difficult meditations. Absolutely, I have them all the time. But if you are willing to sit in the presence of that fire and be willing to face off with it and keep returning back to the present moment, every time you do that, every time you catch yourself thinking about another person or another thing and you become conscious and return back to the present moment and fold back into possibility, that's a victory. And that's what begins to take us into this sense of worthiness, this sense of respect for ourselves and everybody else. We begin to honor and love ourselves more because we're in the crucible, we're in the fire, but we're working. And the body's beginning to shift and change step by step. So then, as you experience greater and greater degrees of oneness and wholeness, and you connect to that field, pay attention, because the moment you connect to that field and all those latent systems switch on, your body is going to get a biological upgrade because you're connecting to the signature of wholeness and oneness. So your body's frequency is going to rise, and so many people come out of their meditation and say, I was scheduled for surgery this week, I have no pain in my body. I don't know what happened. I just got beyond myself. So as you begin to slow your brain waves down, and from beta to alpha and into theta, you begin to connect to your autonomic nervous system. And that autonomic nervous system has one agenda, and that is to create balance, wholeness, and order. And the moment you get beyond yourself, and you're no longer your identity or your pain or your past or your agenda or your diet, you're just an awareness. And that intelligence becomes aware that you are no longer in the way. It is going to rush right into the body. And we've seen this on so many brain scans. That autonomic nervous system is going to light up. And now you are going to process a whole new stream of consciousness, and the body is going to get a biological upgrade from the field whose signature is wholeness. And disease is separation, pain is separation. And all of a sudden the field starts interacting on a cellular level. And the person all of a sudden feels different. But getting there every single day is just connecting to that field. And then when you're there, what are you passionate about? If you're passionate about something, just fall in love with the idea that you could be healed and relax and surrender to the field and allow a greater mind to do it for you. Just get out of the way, and every day, keep interacting with the field. Keep connecting with it. Keep practicing, and sooner or later, you'll say what everybody else says. It was so worth the effort.
Wow, great. Brigitte asks, very often I dream about situations that are say completely opposite from what I want to create in my meditations. I also do feel very strong emotions in those dreams. You say the brain cannot really decide on what's on the outside and what's on my mind. Can you help me understand why I dream about the opposite and what this does or does not into my brain?
This is also a great question from Brigitte. I mean, it's such an interesting thing because so many people want one thing with their conscious mind. I want a new job, I want a new career, I want a new life. And yet their subconscious mind has been programmed. Now think about a program. When you create a program, it's automatic. When you create a program, it runs. So the person is, with their 5% of their conscious mind, is having this desire for something, and yet their subconscious mind is doing something else. As an example, I used to take my oldest son golfing with me, and he used to say to me when we were on the fairway, I'm really worried about hitting that tree. And I would say to him, what tree? Because if you're worried about hitting that tree, what is the imagery that your brain is creating? You're worried about not hitting it. You're doing that with your conscious mind, but your subconscious mind is creating the picture of you actually hitting the tree. That's why you're saying it. So the subconscious is 95%, so more than likely your body is going to do exactly what it's programmed to do. So what's the relevance of that? Well, people say I want wealth, but they're programmed into being unworthy and lacking, right? So then as they begin to do the meditative work and they start opening their heart, I was just talking to someone yesterday. When you open the center, things are going to sift to the top. All the programs are going to come right up. And when they come up like that, you're going to see why it isn't manifesting in your life. Now, don't see it as like, why is this happening? Did I do something wrong? The subconscious is actually venting. There's a certain period of time in the early mornings where we vent our anxieties. We vent our fears. It's the way the subconscious goes, let's just have this dream and let's just get it over with. So the subconscious is saying, what if you hit the tree? What if you're actually going to hit the tree? You're going to hit the tree because that's exactly the imagery you have when you're trying to create something. You're saying, I really want this because I'm really afraid of dying. I'm really afraid of failure. I'm really afraid of rejection, right? So the person is subconsciously and unconsciously creating the imagery that's actually being revealed to them. So how do we change that? Well, really simple. We got to start rehearsing like a new way. We got to start getting into those deep brainwave states, getting beyond the analytical mind, slowing our brainwaves down, getting into the operating system, and start reprogramming. Okay, so when this happens, these are the things I'm going to do. These are the things I'm going to do to create that, and start rehearsing those steps, priming and reprogramming the brain into a new outcome. So I have had that many years in my life, but I always have seen it as a strong sign, strong symbol that I got something switched in my brain. I could say that people say I want to be healthy. Yeah, it's 5% of your conscious mind, but you set them at the dinner table and they're breaking all the rules of everything they said. So why does that happen? Because the program is running and they've lost their free will to a program. So now, that's important because your subconscious is talking to you. Now you got to get in there. You got to get in there and start rehearsing that you're going to step away from the table, that you're not going to eat after a certain hour, that you're going to make better choices and rehearse them and remember what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. Now you begin to, on a fundamental level, begin to rewrite the script, begin to rewrite the program. And over time, if you make one or two new choices and restrain some old choices, you'll tend to make more better choices after you make a few, because you'll start feeling the satisfaction of your efforts. So don't see it as like doing something wrong. It's just that the mind is polarized. And people will say that they want something, but the subconscious is saying, look, this is really what's happening. So get in there now. Now you have the information to begin to unlearn those subconscious programs and begin to rewrite some new ones.
Okay. Thank you. So, 2 questions more. Peter asks, if someone has been on medication for 20 years and cannot be taken off those drugs right away, how can that person still remove the conditioning that is caused by the chemicals and the ritual of taking those drugs?
Yeah, so this is also a great question, because many people are at different levels and making different strides in overcoming their health condition. Now, treating with pharmaceuticals or nutraceuticals or treating with external substances to help the body to move back into homeostasis and balance is an assistance, so that the person then can navigate in their life when their stress happens and their body moves out of balance, or they need a substance to keep their blood sugar in order or to keep their brain chemistry balanced. Those are things that the body becomes dependent on. And I always say, please work with a physician and make sure that you're getting regular tests to get feedback to let you know if anything's changing. Now, some people are in denial. I was just talking to a physician this week whose patient's in denial because they're saying, oh, I don't have this condition and I don't want to look at it, and the tests are saying that she obviously does, right? So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being pragmatic. So if you have diabetes, as an example, or you have chronic pain and you've used those drugs to help diminish the pain, your body becomes dependent on that because you're in the same chemical state. So then as you begin to do the work and you begin to change the neurocircuitry, the neurochemistry, the hormones, the energy, and even your genetic expression, as you start changing that, the body goes into flux. There's a reorganization that takes place for a period of time because now you're no longer in the same neurochemical state. So when that occurs, you start noticing that you have new symptoms, or you start noticing that you don't feel well from your medication, or you have an incident, a profound inner event that raises you to a new level of consciousness that you now know on some level you're beginning to get. We see this all the time. And people say, I don't know what that was, that inner event, that amazing inner experience, that transcendental moment, but something, I felt it in my body. I know my body got a new signal. So now the body's starting to reorganize, right? So when they start to occur, this is where feedback is important. Go to the doctor, and I always say, every 3 months. If you're doing the work consistently, look at the measurements. Look at what your measurements are. And when you're finishing your meditation and you lay down, and let's just say your normal blood value should be 100, and you're at 500. And so then when you lay down and you surrender, you just hold 400 in your mind, and just let the divine get a good look at that, and just surrender it and say, this is my new value. And people start getting super creative in the process. They start to move the needle. So many people do that, and the doctor says, look, I don't know what you're doing, but I think we should diminish the dosage or cut the dosage in half because we've had some really significant changes. I don't know what you're doing, but don't stop doing it because it's working. So I'm more concerned with a methodical, practical approach, step by step, for a person to make their way. Now, the moment the body moves out of the past, the moment we begin to interact with the field, the moment there's a biological upgrade, the moment now the person is conditioning their body emotionally to the future and rewiring their brain, and they're moving into a new state of being, when they start noticing a change in their symptoms as well, that's an important feedback mechanism. Like, hey, my pain's gone. Hey, I'm sleeping through the night. Hey, that sore that I've had on my hand that's been there for 3 months is gone. Hey, I'm seeing better. Like, I'm seeing better, or I'm hearing better. And when you get that kind of physiological change, that's just not staying the same every day, because chemistry just kind of keeps us the same. Chronic conditions, treating with chemistry, is keeping us regulated into the same state. Some person is regulating new states, they're self-regulating. And over time, their body starts reorganizing and changing. It makes sense then that if you do that on a regular basis and you start noticing changes in your body, your most immediate feedback. Hey, I ate that food and I didn't have any of this or any of that. Something's changing. Now you know, once that occurs, this is the defining moment. Once that occurs, I know it happened to me with my injury. The moment I started noticing changes in my body after 6.5 weeks of hell, of just feeling like I wasn't getting anywhere. The moment I noticed that pain going away and I could feel my feet differently, that was it. Then I knew that it was going to make a difference. And it's kind of a funny moment, because the moment that happens, you're no longer dreading it and saying, I can't do this, it's not working, it's too hard, I'm bad. The moment you notice that change, all of a sudden you're like, let's go, I'm going to do it again. Now you're looking forward to do it. It's no longer torture. You're just like, your energy's changed, right? That's all you need. So I've learned then to actually create that state before I start noticing those changes, because my body's going, what's going on? He's acting as if he's healed. He's walking as if it's already happened. So then, every single question here that I've gotten, people need to really come to one of our week-long events, because they need to learn the walking meditation. They need to take their body for a walk and take it out of the past. They got to do that standing meditation so that in their waking day, they're not back to the old programs again. They're walking. It's a new habit. They're walking as it. They're talking as it. They're feeling it. They're thinking as it. They've practiced becoming it. So as you overcome every single day, in time you become somebody else. So our week-longs are a great way for people to practice sitting as it, walking as it, standing as it, lying down as it. They have the opportunity to literally change the habit. And you know, when we're unhappy, we walk a certain way. And when we're feeling sorry for ourselves, our posture changes, and our body changes, and our chemistry changes. So the moment somebody starts taking on a new energy, and they practice that for 2 weeks, they're going to walk from their car to their office. They're going to be walking as their future self, and their body's going to have to catch up sooner or later. And when it does, all of a sudden, they'll say what a lot of people say, I know I'm healed. I know it. How do you know? I just know. I'll do the test, but I already know I'm healed. You see that all the time.
You've seen this in the community very often.
Many times.
Many times. Yeah. So last question. Bianca asks, during my meditation, I start to feel all kinds of itches and pain in my body. I have to yawn. I feel the need to stretch or move. Also, sometimes there seems be no way to quiet my thinking. Do you have any recommendations for me?
Yeah. I mean, the body that has become the mind is so afraid to step into the unknown. Yeah. And it'll do everything it can to distract us. You get an itch, you get a pain, you get gas, you get a headache, you get nauseous. This is all the body going, no. The last time you stepped out into the unknown, it didn't go very well. You got betrayed, you got manipulated, you got taken. You felt a lot of pain. So it's just like, you know, on my ranch, the stallions are in these big paddocks. And when I first had my stallions, I wouldn't put any hot lines around there. And, you know, they could smell the mares up on the top of the property, and they would literally run right through the wooden fences, just like these big animals just breaking through and running up the hill. Well, they're just, nature was calling, you know. But you put a hot line on there, and they hit that hot line a few times, you can walk them right up to that hot line and they will not go any further. That's conditioned. You notice a change in your internal state, you become awake and aware, and you pay attention to what caused it, and you narrow your focus on that line. Do it a few times, and you take a stallion, you try to move that stallion past that point, and they will not move. You can get 5 guys to push them, and they'll push them all backwards. They've been conditioned into the box, right? So that's what pain does for us, right? Like, oh, I don't want that to happen again. So the body is already programmed to make sure that it doesn't. So you start taking the person out of their comfort zone, out of the known, and the body's going, well, I don't know if I want to do this, and it does all those things. Follow the instructions. Take your attention off your body, and every time your body starts doing that, settle it down into the present moment and say, I'm going to let you sleep later. I'm going to let you eat later. You can drink coffee later. You can open your eyes and take a shower later. You can lay down. You can do whatever. But right now, you're no longer the mind. I'm the mind. Mm-hmm. And every time it does that, you settle it back down into the present moment and you unfold back into possibility. You're training that horse. You're retraining the horse and telling it it's no longer the mind, that you're the mind. And just like training any animal, sooner or later, it's going to realize that your will is greater than the program. And it's going to finally surrender. And when it does, there's always a liberation of energy. And everybody always says the same thing. I'm so glad I stuck with it. It was so worth it. I pushed myself further than I thought I can go. And every time you push yourself further than where you think you could go, you're in the unknown. So the moment you scratch your head, you're back in the known. The moment you start yawning, your body's going, oh, I don't want to do this. But hey, listen, if you're going to have a date with the divine, and you're showing up yawning and scratching and disinterested, you don't even believe it exists. If you knew that divine was a loving intelligence, and that it is the very fabric of everything material, and that it's been present the whole entire time, and you got to meet it with the same energy. Your mind has to match its mind. Your love for life has to match its love for life. Your will has to match its will. And when you do, and you eclipse with that intelligence, you won't be yawning. You won't be itching. You will be stunned by its magnificence. So many people they go at it kind of half speed, and they go at it like, I don't want to do this, or I'm tired, or that's the body-mind talking, and so go into it unconsciously. But if you knew that you could create something new by changing your energy, and that you could connect to this intelligence that's real, what would you bring to the date? You'd be on time. You would be present. You would be engaged. You would bring your best. You wouldn't let anybody or anything distract you, just like your date with a lover. You wouldn't miss that date for anything. You would move mountains to make sure that you had time for that person. Well, we're talking about the prima materia here. I mean, if you're showing up that way, then there's a program that you're already thinking that it doesn't exist subconsciously, or that you can't arrive at, or it's too hard, or it takes too much work, or whatever people do when they resign. But when you say, I don't want my breakfast, I don't want my coffee, I don't want my tea, I don't want my sleep, I don't want my shower, I don't want my cell phone, I don't want my comfort, I don't want any of these things, I want you more than anybody else. You are the object of my affection. And you bring your best. I mean, think about this. People step into the altar of the divine, and they complain all the time. Like they beg for things. I mean, do you want a relationship? Think about it. Do you want to be in a relationship with someone who's asking for things, for you to do things all the time for them? They're needing things all the time, that they're begging. Sooner or later, you're just going to be like, I don't have time for this, because you're not connecting first, right? So connect with that intelligence and understand that you have to match it in its presence, and that you have to make a commitment when you sit down. You're going to sit up like a noble being, that you are going to disconnect from everyone or anything, and you're saying, this is my time. I'm investing my time and attention into the divine. I'm putting my attention on the unknown, and I want to see feedback in my life to let me know that this intelligence is real. And I'm making time to emulate it, to become it, to connect with it. And no person, no thing, no experience, no place is going to take me from my attention to it. And now you're going to get an electrical signal, and your body's going to be like jumping on a horse and grabbing your legs and wrapping around and giving a little kick like, let's ride. The horse knows the moment the rider gets on and grabs it and kicks it like we ride, the horse knows that it's no longer the mind, that somebody else with a greater intelligence is now the mind. So many people have been conditioned into believing how powerless they are. They don't think that their thoughts make a difference, that their feelings make a difference, that their gestures go unseen, that people are that they're ever seen. People have been conditioned that they don't matter, that they're powerless. That is absolutely not the truth. Sit up like a noble being. Command the present moment and say, for these 45 minutes or half an hour, or 20 minutes or an hour, whatever it is that's for you, this is who I become. And you don't get up until that person. Your body is going to sooner or later get very, very excited about connecting to it, because that feeling is going to be electric, and I can guarantee you won't be yawning or scratching or any of that stuff. You're going to leave that way behind. That's just the body, and it just needs a master to step in and say, this is my time and this is how we do it.
Great explanation. Thank you very much for your time, for your benefit, and for helping us.
Absolutely happy to contribute.
Thank you.
You're welcome.